In episode 91 of Book of Dawn IOTH Academy, Garnet, Elnau, and Das Untermaler worked together against the forces of Diffraxis. They battled against Designer 6, who performed hideous experiments on the living and dead alike within their lab. And while they kept on striking down one abomination after another, Designer 6's presence seemed capable of leaping from one of their creations to another. Desperate against these rising tides, Garnet used the power of the Book of Seosh to open a void rift. But in such close proximity to an enormous sphere of annihilation they brought with them from Onderud, things got very dark very fast. Unable to stop the two from colliding, Garnet and Elnau clung to each other with desperate last motions as the two void rifts turned and twisted and melded with each other, destroying or transporting an enormous chunk of the city. Weak and weary from their battle and nearly dead, they arrived at the footsteps of the silent city itself. There, Elnau tried to persuade Garnet to let her use the Book of Seosh, walk the shadow path, and return to the mortal world. Still suspicious, still angry, still frustrated by the damage that she thought she'd wrought or her inability to protect her friends, and perhaps more importantly, by her non-ability to kill Anachronus after everything that got revealed recently, Garnet was very loath and reluctant to trust. But eventually they set forth on the shadow path that is going to lead them back to Athalor and to Mason. All right, so you're here, so I'm going to take you out of detention, okay? I have the detention thing on you right now. Let me just go ahead and... There. The lads are now in. You hear me good? Everything good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. First off, thank you for making extra time for the solo episode. I'm super glad that we handled it where we can get everybody reunited.
Sort of. I'm glad. I was like, oh shit, I don't know what's happening. I'm glad.
Start of the next episode, you two will be able to appear from the shadow paths and we'll have the whole team together.
Cool.
All right, so
the rest are in the underworld, so we'll reunite with them later.
That sounds like a them problem.
Yeah, that's true.
What was I going to say a moment ago? Okay, so thoughts. What's going on with Garnet? What do you want to talk about?
I think this has been one of the many breaking points. I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but just the whole news about Machine Prince being a good guy is sort of been a big rattle, and she's tried not to show it. It's been a whole life mission, the whole reason of pursuing the void, one of the biggest reasons, and all of the studying and going to IOTH Academy instead of going home. All of this was to get enough power to at some point it was to get revenge for her dad. But now all of this hate and not being able to satisfy her own expectations is now turned into I need to prove myself right kind of thing. And now that she's sort of figured out that Machine Prince is on their side / she can't kill him, and because he could probably just have so many units and whatever, and it's just this obviously very immature teenage frustration of, well, if I can't do this, I'm gonna do that, and instead of kind of dealing and accepting what reality is, it's just not being a victim, but more just projecting it on something else, which in this case was Diffraxis. And I think before processing all of that, it was very much let's only take care of the designers, which then turned into, this paranoid, well, if we let anyone be alive, then they're gonna keep coming after us. The same way that she feels because she was left alive by the Machine Prince, look what happened when they left her alive. She kind of came back, and it was a huge problem. So now it's everyone in that city is a problem, because hey, destroying that city is gonna be, she feels she would create a Garnets around if she left anyone alive, which is obviously very delusional. But it's, well, you're either serving him choosing to live there, which obviously isn't totally correct. They're sort of enslaved, but it's sort of like you could probably get out if you wanted to, like sort of thing. And you're either enslaved, choosing to be there, contributing to their economy. Like you are all a problem. And now especially that Buddy can like just transfer from one unit to another. Now everyone can be a designer or a puppet of the designer, so that's even more contributing to everyone
Oh
should
my
die.
god.
So
Full
the
paranoia.
power, yeah, and the riff thing was something she had cooked up for a while and just didn't want to tell anybody because it's was not supposed to be a spell she was going to easily pull off, and I guess did by powers of mechanics. Um, so the idea was to put the sphere at the middle and then have everyone get pulled by the riff. Because I thought the riff was just like a graviton, like it was just like pull only. I didn't realize that it was, hey, and both character wise, probably too, that it was sort of another sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously didn't, at least IRL, I don't think I would have realized that what the consequences were. And she definitely knew that this was like a full failed plan. Like this was not gonna be most likely possible, but she would rather die trying than just have anyone like she would rather be the martyr or the person that gets fucked up by this than have to she can take out more people by doing this and be the only sacrifice versus doing nothing and having more casualties. Like that was the choice she wanted to make. And but when everyone was very stubborn about like helping and not stubborn like in a bad way, but she realized that people were willing to sacrifice just as much as she was like, ah, shit, like Elle now matters more to her than almost matters more to her. I don't know. The whole like doesn't Elle now matter more than killing the Machine Prince is probably still like a who knows, but obviously didn't want her to die, so but yeah, and at this point, like because of the void corruption too, like her and especially the way that the last episode went, where the friends didn't approve and were almost like yeah, just kind of like didn't approve and just didn't think she was right about curing Elle now, and she just feels like she's creating these rifts between people, which she was already. If void corruption wasn't already making her feel alone, then her actions are also creating that. Which in her mind, she thinks she's doing the right thing, but keeps messing up, and so now she just has these rifts that are creating between people, which is almost pushing her more towards the void, and yeah, Elle now kind of like still being nice to her this episode was very like helping that a bit, because if she would have like pushed back more, then that would have maybe been like a turning point. But she's very much like, well, since I'm doing everything wrong, I might as well do everything wrong and get what I want done instead of helping other people. And because helping other people hasn't like it's
Worked
only
out.
hurt her in the end. Like
Mm.
it's gotten the result that she wanted, which was, you know, keeping Ariana safe or whatever. But all people do is like blame her. She feels like people are giving her the tools to do things, and then when she does it, she's wrong for it. So it's like frustrating as hell to, as a teenager, just think that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then you do it wrong. And instead of trying to figure out how to do it right, you're just like pissed at yourself because teenager stuff, you know? So she kind of like just with that small rift between her and her friends, the fact that they didn't support her fully in trying to cure Elle now, she's kind of like, I just want to destroy the city and take out all of this frustration that I have on this city. And I think that's pretty much what happened or tried to happen.
I feel like Elle now keeps on getting in the way almost. Like she's not being enough of an asshole to push Garnet one way, but she's not good enough at being nice to push her the other way. She just sort of like keeps jostling Garnet back and forth between the two, trying, you know, like somebody trying to balance an egg on their head. And just keeps missing the mark. So if you look at the Sphere of Annihilation rules, there's specific rules for when it encounters a another planar rift of any kind. And you roll on a D100 table, and you rolled a 99, and the result of a 99 is that everything in a 180-foot radius is pulled to another plane of existence.
Oh shit.
But here's something I didn't think of. That's on a sphere of annihilation, which has a 2-foot diameter. These things had like a 20-foot diameter. So that might have been a lot more of the city going to the underworld than I originally calculated. That could be a sizable chunk of the city now running around in the underworld. Untermaler
Like,
giving impromptu tours.
so more than the I forgot. Did you say like 400 feet plus? I forgot what
So
you said.
what I said earlier was a 180-foot radius.
Mm.
But I'm going to have to look at it because I've done it in the past where the radius was bigger. Yeah, a spatial rift sends each object and creature within 180 feet of the sphere, including the sphere, to a random plane of existence. And that was 2 20-foot diameter spheres. So I think this is going to... We'll just have to wait to find out next episode.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you... One thing that we did last time that Crone introduced us to was something called stars and wishes, where stars are moments that stand out for you that you liked, and wishes are things that you hope will happen or that you want more of. What would you say in those ways? What was something that you liked and that stood out from this episode, and what's something that you either hope will happen or want to see more of?
I definitely think like one of the most interesting moments was when all like shit is hitting the fan and Elle now drops to like 0 inspiration. She's back up, and just kind of like every time I we have Stream Loot's cards like play, I kind of like imagine in my head like what would proc that, and I just think
What
about like
actually
her.
happened, yeah.
Yeah, like the inspiration was her just like fighting to stay alive for her, and then instead of healing or going back or whatever, it was like this wall of forest. It was like that a big aha moment, obviously for the Garnet the character, but also it was like cool as fuck that she chose that instead of anything else. And wishes, I guess, so it'd be like what you wish to happen more of.
Yeah, either something you want more out of the game or like a scene or something or event that you hope will happen. It can be meta, it can be in character, it can be out of character, it can be meta, it can be like, hey, I hope we get more role play, or I hope we get more combat, or this character, that character, or this plot line, anything. Something you hope you will happen or you want more of.
Yeah, I've definitely been liking just the El now Garnet interactions. At least just like thinking of moments this episode where how those interactions have changed, because it went like just been very caring and patient, but Garnet's interactions towards her have very much changed, between like almost taking advantage of her, like at the beginning where Merrick was like, oh yeah, just use her, like you have her around your finger, like blah blah blah, like that whole situation, to I just want to, well, like, I guess I just want to control her so that, oh, like if I have the Archmage around my finger, like I could be the Archmage, or I could just have the power of an Archmage without being one, to like her being this mentor, to her almost being this pseudo mother figure, to blaming her for the things that have happened to her. Because at first it was like, well, you put the book in my hands, you put, the materials of the mask in my hands, and now you're mad at me for using them. Like, fuck you, like, kind of situation. Like, it was just very unfair. I mean, she still feels like it's unfair, but it's less angry and blaming. And she also at some point was like, everything Elle now does is wrong. Teenagers, they always think adults are like not that much more capable than they are, teenagers. So it was like, in some parts she said some horrible shit to her and would say like you can't even keep the Book of Dawn safe. Like that was like a big thing that she regrets saying, and obviously that tilted Elle now a lot to she's probably not strong enough to be the Archmage because she's fucking everything up, to she killed her by, hitting the Emerald Golem, and that's something she should have known better, and just like thought that Elle now wasn't worthy of all the things that she has and feels like she was the true owner of, or like Garnet feels like she was the better suited owner of the book. And now it's been like less of a blaming Elle now for these things and more understanding that Elle now feels bad for the path that they kind of took together and is more leaning on her to like help through this stuff. And although they can't turn back on the path, it's like, well, like you can help me on it. And yes, it's still sort of your fault, but it's more about the treatment of her because of this. It's like it's unfair that everyone is kind of mad at her when she feels like she's both the biggest problem and the biggest solution. So,
Hmm.
but she still kind of thinks of herself as, well, I can fix all of this. I can be the one who destroys the city. I can be the one who stops Machine Prince. I could be the one who saves the academy. And if she isn't let to do that, then who is going to do it? Like she
Hmm.
doesn't have full faith in Elle now to do it or anyone else, but at least it's less combatant towards Elle now and more collaborative, which so I sort of like that kind of flow of more maturity growing slash at least it's going in the right direction rather than
Hmm.
away.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we should reward the behavior of drugging the teacher, but this is some like this wanting to fix things is definitely something that's more of a priority with the void corruption down.
Mm-hmm.
He When she took on all that void corruption, she's been very much in just like business mode all the time. She hasn't even seen herself as being mean to Garnet. She just sees herself as, like when she was had that much void corruption, she just saw herself as very focused. No time for emotions, no time to worry about hurting people's feelings. Obviously, Garnet's going to go along with this because this is a logical thing to do and we have a common goal, so let's just go ahead and not protect anybody's feelings and just focus on business. So a lot of her treatment of Garnet, again, she didn't even see it as talking down or mistreating. She was just being super, super blunt about everything. And thought that any problems Garnet had with that was just an inefficiency being introduced. Like, why are you doing this? This doesn't make sense. This is not going to help us win. All that matters is that we win. And that sort of culminated when she blew up the Emerald Golem, and because she was just so single-mindedly focused on victory that everything else had become secondary to her. And in her own way, she was doing that. She had this thought of like, once we've fixed everything, once we've solved all the dangers, then we can focus on all that other stuff, that relationship stuff, that interpersonal stuff. But I'm just going to compartmentalize that and shove it over here in the void corner until we get there, which does not work great with teenagers.
Yeah, and I think like deep down she wanted to cure that corruption in her.
Mm-hmm.
What there was like many reasons. Like one, it was like let's kind of guinea pig like the evil side would be like let's kind of guinea pig test this
Mm-hmm.
because if Brontha wanted to take down IOTH or just wanted to secretly, destabilize it, then they would rig the potion. Or if they thought it was meant for Garnet, like how Brontha
Mm.
truly felt about Garnet and IOTH Academy would be shown, and if that potion was rigged.
Oh, damn.
Two, like obviously getting your Archmage to not be fully corrupted is ideal, especially when you don't
Mm-hmm.
really know if Seosh, if he controls all the void and all the stuff, can he control
Mm-hmm.
people that are voided? Like that's something that's floated in her head, especially with the memories being wiped and stuff. The biggest fear was that Elnau would forget about her, and then that would be like a big thing. And then thirdly, like Elnau has been so cold towards her, and just that lack of like love and warmth ever since Ariana left. Like her only source of like real love and warmth has been Elnau, and if that would be gone, then there wouldn't be really much holding her back to just
Mm-hmm.
going full void or to just be completely alone. Although Athalor is great and all, but he's not like that
It's a different
ultra
vibe.
warm. It's
Yeah.
different. It's bestie vibe rather than like a close. I mean, they're close. I don't know.
No,
They're
I
they're
get
they're
I
they're
get what you're
definitely
saying.
warming up. They're definitely warming
Mm-hmm.
up more as of late in terms of like expressing to each other how much they care. That's like been a
Mm-hmm.
more recent thing, but yeah. So and
Did
she definitely
the
just
did the potion of restoration thing set that back?
yeah, definitely she feels like that would get her to love her again or show that love again that she really deep down kind of needed but didn't want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think has almost been snappy back at Elle now because she's just been so cold.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being sad, she just gets mad at her for it.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Teenagers. Well, I'm sure Marisol would be 100% down to step into that gap if you leave school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's another thing of just, man, her mom has been so freaking nice and supportive. And it's just, I think because they've had so little time together, it's
Mm-hmm.
not fully set in that she is the mom that she remembers her to be. I still try
Mm-hmm.
to think about, like, oh, how did she think about her mom before she went to IOTH? And I guess I didn't really, like, fully think that out in my mind of what
That
their
was 100
relationship
episodes
was.
ago. Like, we hadn't really,
Yeah.
there was aside from it just being far away and forgetting things, the whole mindset of role playing and storytelling and stuff we all had was different too.
I think she still sees her as like a stranger because I feel like when she was told that no one is looking for her, they were all like dead in her minds. You know, they're not
Mm-hmm.
coming back for me, then I'm not going back for them. And to
Right.
just like kind of still, although she knows it's wrong and that these were all lies, it's still like, okay, remembering that, okay, like they actually did come, but it took them a long time and they're still rebuilding that relationship that maybe her mom doesn't think that is
Mm-hmm.
gone, but in Garnet's mind is sort of
Well,
gone.
yeah, Mirik basically cult programmed her. Like, he was using all the cult
Yeah.
strategies, isolating you, telling you that, nobody else cares, all that stuff. So that's going to take some time to dig up, if ever.
Yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate the deep dive. I like the deep dives.
Yeah.
You put a lot of work into the psychology of the character, and I appreciate that.
It's a fun character to play. A lot of things to battle of good and
Mm-hmm.
bad and kind of the teen I always think about like damn like what is the teenager reaction to this? It's this whole
Mm-hmm.
other element of they have to be super irrational and or mostly irrational. I feel like all the other characters in our party are very rational except me, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm just overplaying the teenage hand or if it's I'm trying to explain that at least the elements of how you were raised have
Mm-hmm.
to do with how rational you are and
Well, yeah. I mean, look at Mason. He grew up in a freaking monastery. And look at
yeah.
Athalor. He had kind of the doting attention of his parents and all this stuff. And he's an elf. They do be like that.
True. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm kind of thinking like I've already started thinking about like oh later on like when we're 18, 20 or like down the
Mm-hmm.
if we do that time skip later on that how different she would be or
Mm-hmm.
if at all because there's some people who like get older but don't mature,
Oh, yeah.
you know. You have to want to mature, so
Not naming any
yeah.
names, aunts and uncle. All right. Last thing before we go. Would you rather do a time skip for the character or play out all those years?
I'd probably like to play out the years just so the
Mm-hmm.
flow makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like even if we do the time skip, I'm gonna have to like play out those years in my
Mentally play it
head.
out. Yeah.
Um, so having like other characters' reactions or
Mm-hmm.
involvement in how that flow goes would be nice. But it all depends if we have something to do during those years.
Yeah,
So
if I
like,
don't stop blowing
yeah,
up the academy, we're never making it to year 6.
yeah, same.
Yeah. Could you knock it off, please?
Sorry.
All right. See you Wednesday.
Yeah, see you Wednesday. Appreciate it.
Class dismissed.